The best way to describe Harvey Milk would be as a fighter with unbreakable hope for justice who wanted to establish peace and spread love among all people. Harvey was a kind and charismatic person who happened to become one of the most important people that changed LGBTQ history. How has this man, who was closeted for the first 40 years of his life, became the face of the LGBT social movement in America? LGBTQ movements, after all, had started way before the emergence of Harvey Milk into the scene. So what was so special about him? His activist career started after moving to San Francisco with his boyfriend Scott Smith, who later became his campaign manager. Let's have a quick look at the history of San Francisco. Even in the era when homosexuality was still considered a mental disorder and was not visible in the mainstream, the LGBT community was discriminated against, stereotyped, and humiliated on a regular basis. San Francisco was slightly more welcoming to them, since it had a much larger population of gay people than the average American city. This is due to the fact that after World War II, San Francisco became home to lots of gay men expelled from the military service because of their homosexuality. They eventually chose to remain there rather than go back home and face humiliation. In 1969, the Kinsey Institute assumed that San Francisco has more gay people per capita than any other city in America. LGBTQ people like Harvey Milk used to move there. In 1972, Harvey moved to the city and also started to be politically active. He opened a camera shop with his boyfriend, which became a hangout spot for the LGBTQ community. As a part of it, he felt frustrated by how not only gays, but all minorities in San Francisco were overlooked and discriminated. Harvey Milk decided to run for the position of state supervisor in 1973 but failed to win. However, this did not discourage him, as he tried 3 more times until 1977 when he finally won. He was elected as the first openly gay politician in the US history. Harvey talked not only about gay rights, but also about racial discrimination, discrimination of the elderly and the disabled people, about overseeing, and he stand up for the rights of all minorities. From the beginning, his main goal was to show that being gay is nothing sick or unclean. All people are the same. The only thing separating us is the skin color or our sexual preferences. His political campaigns were not primarily about him as an individual, but more about all communities that felt unsafe. More important than to win was for him to run for office, because thanks to that, he created a dialogue and brought conversations about homosexuals to the mainstream. The biggest challenge he had to face was when conservatives tried to pass the California Proposition 6. California Proposition 6 wanted to ban all homosexuals from teaching in schools in the entire state. The main arguments were that homosexuals would pervert the sexual nature of heterosexuals by indoctrinating them, or simply because, by virtue of it being unnatural, it stood against God's law. Considering the context of the time, this bill had a hard time passing, and in the end, thanks to Harvey's efforts, it did not. Though the topic of homosexuality was considered taboo in the public discourse, Harvey Milk brought them to the forefront. Through his moving speeches, he managed to make the masses aware of the plight of LGBTQ community and elicit their support in fighting the power structures that oppress and marginalize them. Gay rights can't be won from the closet, he famously said during one of his speeches. He urged homosexuals to come out and be proud, to show straight people that even your boss might be homosexual but is hiding it because of the pressure of society. He publicly doubted the correlation highlighted by the proposition and said that if people were able to influence each other's sexuality, he would not be homosexual, given the fact he was a child of heterosexual parents and was educated by homosexual teachers. His words surprisingly gained support from various conservative politicians like Ronald Reagan or Jimmy Carney, as well as amassed more and more supporters from both the gay and straight communities. Proposition 6, as an openly anti-gay, discriminatory law, in the end did not pass. Milk saved the workplaces and dignity of all homosexual teachers and once again showed society that in the end of the day, we are all the same. However, a tragedy occurred on the 10th of November 1978. Harvey Milk, together with Major Moscone, were killed by former supervisor Dan White. Their deaths were a shocking and tragic event which happened only 10 months after Milk was elected. 6 days prior to this event, Milk recorded tapes in case he would be assassinated, on which he famously said, "If a bullet should enter my brain, let that bullet destroy every closet door." After Harvey's death, people gathered in the streets of San Francisco and paid tribute to him, having a candlelight march, an event which is repeated every year since then. After 6 months, Dan White was convicted of manslaughter but sentenced only for 7 years and 8 months. This verdict was on the 21st of May, a day before Milk's birthday. As an answer to this, his friend organized a protest which attracted around 5,000 people. The event took a violent turn as the police started attacking the crowd. The next day, on Harvey's actual birthday, on 22nd of May, over 20,000 people from San Francisco gathered to commemorate his life, achievements, and legacy. These marches and riots paved the way for radical political change as more LGBTQ politicians were elected and the presence of gay people in the policy forces increased. Gay rights activists all around the country were inspired to continue their fight for dignity, civil rights, and freedom of love. After Harvey's death, the movement only strengthened its power, legacy, and significance. His former boyfriend, Scott Smith, relentlessly continued in Harvey's legacy together with the rest of the LGBTQ community. This success, however, was mainly thanks to Harvey himself, who kept saying this is not about him, but about all the asses. In 2009, Harvey's birthday was formally recognized in California as Harvey Milk Day. He was also posthumously honored with the Presidential Medal of Freedom by Barack Obama. Today, on 22nd of May, Harvey would turn 90 years, and I cannot keep myself but thinking how proud he would be at the progress society made towards discrimination and gay rights.